There is a photograph of you at 4 years old. You are standing on a film set in New York City. Tiny sneakers, wide eyes, your father's hand resting on your shoulder. You are surrounded by cameras, lights, and adults who speak in a language you're just beginning to learn, the language of performance. You don't know yet that this photograph is already a warning. You don't know that the man holding your shoulder is about to hand you something that will take decades to put down. You don't know that the lights you're standing under will eventually blind you. You don't know that one day the whole world will count you out, and then you'll come back so hard that they'll name a decade after what you did. But right now, you're 4 years old, and you're smiling. This is where it begins. Level 1, the boy on the set. Your father is Robert Downey Jr., a filmmaker, a visionary, a man whose art lives somewhere between genius and chaos. He loves you fiercely. He also lives by rules that no parent should follow. When you are 6 years old, he gives you marijuana. He frames it as bonding, as something fathers and sons do, as normal. You don't know that normal is supposed to look different. You don't know that the warmth you feel is a borrowed feeling, one that will demand interest from you for the next 30 years. Growing up in Manhattan and then Los Angeles, you are never ordinary. Your childhood is filled with artists, rebels, and misfits. You act in your father's films before you understand what acting means. You absorb performance the way other kids absorb math, instinctively, hungrily, without formal instruction. You are funny, brilliantly, dangerously funny. You can mimic anyone. You can walk into a room and immediately understand what every person in it wants from you and give it to them. This gift will make you famous. It will also make you reckless. At 15, you drop out of high school. You move to New York with your father, then back to Los Angeles, then back to New York. You live like someone who already knows they have a destiny, which means you live like someone with nothing to lose. You are wrong about the destiny. You are right about nothing to lose. Level 2, the rising star. You are 17 when you get your first real film role, then another, then another. The mid-1980s belonged to a generation of young Hollywood actors, the Brat Pack, they call them, and you are orbiting the edge of that world, not quite one of them, but close enough to feel the heat. In 1985, you appear in Weird Science. Small role, forgettable, you don't care. You are learning the camera the way you learned everything else, by watching and then doing. Then comes Less Than Zero in 1987. You play Julian Wells, a young man descending into drug addiction, destroying everything around him, unable to stop himself even when he can see the bottom coming. You are 22 years old when you film it, and you are not entirely acting. You understand Julian from the inside out. You understand the seduction. You understand the way substances make the unbearable feel survivable. The performance is devastating because it is partially true. Critics notice. The industry notices. In 1992, you play Charlie Chaplin in Chaplin. You spend a year preparing. You learn to play the violin and the cello. You study Chaplin's movement, his silence, his genius. You receive an Academy Award nomination. You are 27 years old. The world is beginning to understand what you are capable of. The problem is, so is the darkness inside you. Level 3, the spiral. Nobody plans to lose themselves. That's the lie people tell, that addiction is a choice, that the door can always be closed. You know differently now. You knew it then, too, somewhere underneath the fog. The 1990s unravel in slow motion. The cocaine, the heroin, the alcohol, each one offering what the previous one stopped providing, each one extracting more than the last. You show up late to sets. You show up unprepared. You show up in states that make directors exchange quiet looks and producers reach for their phones. And yet, you keep working, because talent is a kind of currency, and for a while, yours is enough to cover the debt you're accumulating in private. You get married in 1992. Her name is Deborah. She loves you. She watches you disappear from inside the marriage and does not know how to pull you back. Neither do you. The marriage deteriorates. The relationship becomes another casualty in a war you are fighting entirely against yourself. You tell yourself you have it under control. This is the most dangerous sentence in the English language. Level 4, the fall. In 1996, the architecture collapses. You are arrested in June. Police find cocaine, heroin, and a .357 Magnum in your car. This is not a headline. This is your life. You go to court, you enter treatment, you relapse. You are arrested again in July, this time found wandering into a neighbor's house while under the influence, collapsing into a child's bed and falling asleep. The world reads this in the morning paper. The court orders treatment. You go. You leave early. You are arrested again in 1999. The judge has run out of patience. He sentences you to 3 years in the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison at Corcoran. You are 34 years old. You are in prison. Let that land for a moment. The kid in the photograph, the boy on the film set, the man who held an Oscar nomination in his hands, is now wearing a prison uniform, sleeping in a cell, being counted by guards. The film rolls stop. The phone stops ringing. The industry that once chased you looks away, the way you look away from a car accident when you've already passed it. You are alone with the consequences of your choices. And for the first time, there is nowhere to go and nothing to take. This is the bottom. The bottom is quiet. And the quiet is where something finally shifts. Level 5, the climb back. You get out after serving 1 year. You go back to treatment. You relapse again. And then something happens that nobody who has never been through it can quite explain. A moment of clarity, so absolute and so unambiguous that it changes the direction of everything. You describe it later as the moment you looked at a pipe and simply put it down. No dramatic revelation. No thunderclap from the sky. Just a decision. Small and enormous at the same time. Sobriety is not glamorous. Nobody writes scripts about the 6 a.m. meetings, the accountability phone calls, the daily negotiation with your own mind. Nobody makes it into a movie. But here is what happens when you get clean. You remember who you are. Mel Gibson believes in you when no one else will. He funds your legal fees. He vouches for you to studios that won't return your calls. This is a debt you will spend years repaying through loyalty and gratitude. In 2000, you land a role on Ally McBeal, a TV show, a step many people in Hollywood would consider a step down. You take it without hesitation. You show up. You are remarkable. You win a Golden Globe. The industry watches cautiously from a distance. In 2003, you marry Susan Levin on the set of Gothika. She is a producer. She is formidable. She will become the architecture of your stability, not because she saves you, but because she insists you save yourself. The distinction matters. You stay clean, 1 day at a time, then 1 year, then 5. You keep working. Small films, interesting roles, always proving to the next director that you are safe to cast, that the insurance risk is worth taking. You are 38 years old and you are starting over, not from zero, from negative numbers, and you are not afraid. Level 6, the gamble. In 2007, Marvel Studios is looking for someone to play Tony Stark. Tony Stark is a billionaire weapons manufacturer, brilliant, arrogant, reckless, a man who has wasted years of his potential on his own worst impulses, and who has to rebuild himself from the inside out to become something worth remembering. The studios say no to you. The insurance companies say no. They will not cover you. The financial risk of putting a recovering addict at the center of a $140 million film is, by every metric, irrational. But Jon Favreau, the director, sees something that the spreadsheets miss. He sees that you do not need to research this character. You do not need to prepare. You do not need to imagine what it feels like to have everything and destroy it and claw your way back. You have lived that story. The character already lives inside you. It has for decades. Favreau fights for you. Marvel fights for you. They post a bond. They take the risk. You walk onto set on March 12, 2007. In Malibu, California. You improvise lines. You bring irreverence and intelligence and a kind of earned wit, the kind that only comes from someone who has survived something. The crew laughs, the cameras roll. In May 2008, Iron Man opens in theaters. It makes $585 million worldwide. It does not just make you a box office success. It redefines what a comeback looks like. It tells every person who has ever been written off, counted out, or left behind that the story is not over until you decide it is. You are 43 years old, you are the most talked about actor in Hollywood, and you are just getting started. Level 7, the legend. The next decade moves at the speed of mythology. Iron Man 2, The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Captain America, Civil War. Film after film, you carry the center of the largest cinematic universe ever constructed. You are not just playing Tony Stark. You are the reason people believe in Tony Stark. Because Tony Stark's journey, the arrogance, the fall, the reconstruction of identity, is your journey, dressed in armor. Avengers. Endgame opens in April 2019. You are on screen for the final 15 minutes. The theater is silent. People are not watching a superhero. They are watching the conclusion of a 20-year arc, the arc of Robert Downey Jr., collapsed and coded into fiction, made safe enough to love openly. The line comes, "I am Iron Man," and then the snap. Billions of people around the world watch Tony Stark sacrifice himself to save everyone else. Billions of people weep. They weep for a fictional man, but they are really weeping for what he represents. The idea that even the most broken thing can become the most essential thing. That the story of your worst years can become the foundation of your greatest ones. You are 54 years old. You have been sober for over 15 years. You have a daughter and 2 sons. You have a wife who chose to stand beside you not when it was easy, but when it cost something. You have a career that statisticians would call impossible, that Hollywood would call unprecedented, that the rest of us simply call proof. Closing. They will write books about your life. They already are. They will talk about the arrests, the prison, the relapses, because that is the dramatic part, the part that sounds like a cautionary tale. But that is not the real story. The real story is simpler and harder than any of that. The real story is a man who was handed a broken map at 6 years old and spent 30 years trying to navigate with it, who fell as far as a person can fall without disappearing entirely, who got up, not once, dramatically, in a single triumphant moment, but again and again and again in private, without applause, in the relentless ordinary mornings of a life being rebuilt from the inside. The real story is that nobody who saw you in that prison cell in 1999 would have placed money on Avengers. Endgame. Nobody. And yet, somewhere tonight, a young person with a talent they don't know what to do with is watching Iron Man for the first time. They don't know the history. They just know the character feels real in a way that other characters don't. They can't explain why the wit lands differently, why the vulnerability underneath the armor hits somewhere specific, why they believe this man when he says he loves the people he's fighting for. They believe it because it is true. They believe it because the man who played him earned every frame. That boy in the photograph, the one with the tiny sneakers and the wide eyes and his father's hand on his shoulder, he made it. He more than made it. And the lights that once blinded him, he learned to aim them at something worth illuminating.